Hi there, I hope you're doing fantastic. Today we're going to be diving into Reverb some more and talking about the biggest lie in Reverb that you probably believe. I want to let you know I do have my ultimate mixing checklist available for download. Make sure you're getting that to get better and faster mixes. Hi, my name's Tyson. I'm a mastering engineer here at Dinosaur Dog Mastering, and today we're going to be talking about Reverb, specifically the Reverb techniques found in this book. I am a huge fan of education. I have bought thousands of dollars worth of online education and books and everything I can get my hands on in order to better myself and make sure that I gain the knowledge I need to be the best engineer I can. But this book has a ton of lies in it. And so I want to, first of all, warn you from reading this book. This is one of the top books on Amazon about Reverb, and it's wrong. So anyway, let me read you just a small excerpt, and then I'm going to dive into the DAW and tell you exactly why this is not even applicable and it's not correct. Okay, so he's basically championing this idea that there should be 3 reverbs inside of your mix: a front space, a middle space, and a back space, which is fine. I have a very similar technique. However, he's offering a solution that says you should have a specific type of reverb for each of those spaces. And listen to the description that he talks about for these reverbs. The front space is created by using short decay reverbs. The middle space is created by using medium decay reverbs. The back space is created using long decay reverbs. Okay, this is false. Decay does not equal distance inside of a mix. And let's dive into the DAW and show you exactly how that works. I have 2 reverbs set up on this little keys track here. This is just a piano track. And one of them is set up to sound close and the other one far away. And I'm gonna debunk the ultimate myth of what decay time has to do with closeness. Pay close attention, and I want you to decide which one, the top or the bottom, or the option 1 or option 2, that is closer versus further away. Option number 0 is dry, and then I'll play the other 2. Okay, so you should be able to tell that the second one sounds further away. Let me play the first one for you again, just so you can refresh here. Versus the second one. Okay, so why does the second one sound further away? Let's open them both up and see exactly what we have going on here. Okay, so the one on the left over here is the one that sounds much closer, and the one on the right sounds much further away. Why does that? The first thing I want to point out is that the decay is 4 times longer on the one on the left, but it sounds closer. So what that tells us is decay time has basically nothing to do with how close something sounds to us. Decay time simply means how long does the sound last after it is initiated? How long is the tail of the reverb? That means that this space has a lot of hard surfaces that it's bouncing off of that allows the sound to exist in that space for a very long time, versus a shorter decay means that there's more absorptive type materials, either actual people in there, bodies absorb a lot of sound, soft tapestries, actual soundproofing, etc. Anything could be shortening the decay time by absorbing the sound and not allowing that sound to just bounce off a hard surface and continue to exist in that space. Decay time does not equal distance, okay? So I want to make that sure that that is 100% straight. If you take nothing else away from this video, decay time does not equal distance, okay? And that's pretty obvious with this plugin, for example, because we have an actual distance parameter, which I did set being 10 and 90%. So there's obvious difference of which one is actually further away. And I'm going to get into explaining exactly why this distance sounds, what this distance knob is actually doing to make the sound further away. But before I get to that, I want to talk about pre-delay. So the one on the left, again, the one that sounds closer to us has a longer pre-delay. What does this mean? This pre-delay is essentially saying, when does the first reflection hit you from the sound being shown? So basically, we're hearing the direct sound of the piano initially, and then 30 milliseconds later is when we hear the first indication of the reverb. That means that there is 30 milliseconds between the time that the sound is produced, it hits the first wall, and then back to my ears. So what this is indicative of is that this sound is very close to me because it takes a very long time for the sound to go all the way back to the far wall and then back to my ears, or whichever wall it hits off of first. Versus on the the right hand side over here, the pre-delay is 0 milliseconds. That means that I'm hearing the first reflections of the reverb and the direct sound at the same time. That's as if the piano is on the far wall, so as far away from me as possible in the same room, and so I'm hearing all of that stuff at the same time, okay? So that is pre-delay. Most of the time I see pre-delay being used to time to the track and all of this other just creating an actual delay effect essentially with the reverb, which by all means use it if you want to in that way, but the true meaning of pre-delay is actually an indication of how far something is away from you in the same room. Now let's get back to the actual distance parameter. What is this distance doing that's causing something to sound either closer to me or further away? And the distance is actually impacting the early and late reflections of this reverb. So this particular reverb has an additional control versus the early and late reflections, but this distance knob is subtly changing the balance between those two parameters as well as the direct sound. So the closer something is to us, the quieter the actual initial early reflections are, so the first reflections we hear, and then also the late reflections, which is really the wash sound that we hear. So the closer something is to us, we are able to hear, closer something is to us, we hear the direct sound louder than the reverb signal, as well as we hear more early reflections versus late reflections. The second one has a much higher distance parameter, meaning the late reflection to early reflection balance is much greater. So we hear a lot more of the wash sound and not as much of the initial early reflection sounds. As well as we have a higher dry to wet ratio. Let's play these again, just so you can hear exactly what's going on. Again, with all of this in mind. So again, the decay is much longer on the first one, much shorter on the second one. However, the first one will sound much, much closer to us because of these other parameters in the reverb. Decay does not mean distance, and the way that something sounds further away is adjusting the early and late reflection balance, and then also the balance between the reverb sound and the direct sound that we hear. So essentially the wet-dry balance. Okay, so I hope this is helpful in debunking a little bit of decay and what that actually means in reverb. This will allow you, having just these basic tools in place will allow you to be able to create reverbs that really mean a lot more for your mix, and you're able to use it much more intentionally of creating distance and depth inside of your mix for the given elements that you're trying to do it, and actually create something that either sounds closer or further away based on whatever your mix goals are. Okay, I hope this was super helpful. If it was, don't forget to subscribe as I release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to help you get better mixes. And then also don't forget to get your ultimate mixing checklist down below if you haven't already. Okay, with that said, thanks again for your time, and I will see you in the next one.